Well, hello there. My name is Paul Marto. Welcome to the World Beyond Belief. And
I'm Mindy Erkin. And, well, tonight we have an exciting show for you. We're going to talk about how to gaslight an entire world, how to suppress the alien presence on the Earth, and cover up the secret government. In other words, how to run a full-blown war on reality and win up to this point. Let's start off with James V. Forrestal, the first Secretary of Defense and an admitted victim of alien abduction. You might remember from podcast 110, he was the admiral that dispatched Admiral Byrd to the South Pole in Operation High Jump.
did you hear that little sound? Well, we're going to use that sound throughout this podcast whenever we mention a project, a government project, operation, government teams, because it seems that that's what government does. At least the U.S. government, I don't know about other governments. But they assign nonsensical labels to projects, operations, teams, etc. Whenever they do one, remember Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Desert Storm. They assign nonsensical labels to the projects. But it seems that normal, average people don't really do that. I mean, if Mindy and I decide to wash the car, we just call it going to wash the car or washing the car. If it was a government project, it would be something like Operation Driveway Luster or something like that. And here's how it would work. There's two of us doing it. And I might be, full and innocent and thinking that, well, the idea is to get the car clean. So I'm out there cleaning the car. Meanwhile, Mindy's an insider. She knows that the real idea is to get all of us to be discontent with the car so we can buy a new one. So she's out there pretending to wash it. Meanwhile, she's clipping wires and making other things non-functional. And I think that's what happens most of the time when they name their project. For example, Operation High Jump. Operation High Jump ostensibly was intended to map Antarctica, but they took 4,007 men. They had an aircraft carrier, they had submarines, they had battleships, they had many planes. So there might have been people on the mission that maybe knew that the bottom line wasn't to map on Antarctica, it might have been to do something else. But probably only those at the top actually knew what the purpose of this operation was. So you're not going to name it Operation Map Antarctica because there'll be this percentage of the people that think that, there'll be other people working toward this end and this. So it's all subterfuge and deception. Now you might say, well, that kind of nonsense is necessary for security, to keep this stuff from our enemies. But then again, you have to look at who are our enemies. Is it Al-Qaeda? This is an organization created by the government and still financed and armed by the government, our government. Is it the new group coming out of Saudi Arabia? ISIS? Well, that's also instigated by us in Saudi Arabia and certainly armed by the U.S. You might say, oh, it's Russia and China. They're, the communist bloc against us. Well, first of all, they're not communist. And second of all, they have so many deals with the West that we're so intertwined. I don't know if you knew this, but the Russian school system signed a pact with Reagan in the 1980s to do the same thing, so that when our societies would come together, we'd have, people coming from the same thing. So anyway, I kind of discard the argument to keep it a secret from our enemies. It might be to keep a secret from the people who are the real enemies of the government, because they're starting to wake up to the big secret. And the big secret is the government is simply a reified notion. reinforced to keep the cabal in power and the rest of us virtually powerless. Now let me tell you about what a reified notion is. There are certain things that are real objects, like a toilet. A toilet is a real object. You can kick it, you can puke into it, it's there. A steamboat is a real object. Those are real objects. And then there's reified ideas. For example, salesmanship is a reified idea. Actually, ownership is a reified idea. They don't actually exist. The notion of property is a reified idea. Now, land and earth are true, they're really things. But the notion of property and property ownership has to be agreed with by all the parties, and it's just a notion we all agreed on. Like the government has to be saying, yeah, we'll defend your right to own this property and we'll charge you taxes, and you agree that, you own it. So that's how a reified notion works. It only works when people realize that you're referring to the same thing. The government, well, actually the government isn't there. It's a reified notion. Is it the buildings of the government? No, it's not the buildings. Is it the people that work for the government? Or is it Barack Obama? What is this? No, it's none of those things. It's something different. Oh, it's the laws. Is it the laws? Well, no, we have to agree that the laws are just pronouncements made by people that we all buy into. So I think this whole deception, where we name things silly names to compartmentalize and have it working in a whole bunch of different directions, and only the people at the top know the real idea of the operation or the project. I think that it's to protect the government that really needs protecting. And it doesn't help us, the people, at all. So, I like to make fun of things that they do that I find out and I can see through. So today, as we go through this, whenever we mention, and we're going to be mentioning a lot of operations and projects tonight, we'll play that little sound so you can enjoy the humor of it the same way I do.
Okay, well, returning back to Operation High Jump, Admiral Byrd stopped in Argentina on his way back from the mission and made a statement to the press. Admiral Byrd declared today that it was imperative for the United States to initiate immediate defense measures against hostile regions. The Admiral further stated that he didn't want to frighten anyone unduly, but that it was a bitter reality that in case of a new war, the continental United States would be attacked by flying objects which could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Well, what he encountered, one can only speculate. But returning to Washington, he debriefed the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the President's Council. James Forrestal was obviously at that meeting.
Yeah, Forrestal was worried about a lot of things. He was concerned about the communist threat. He was concerned about Jewish Zionism, and their lobby controlling too much. And he was also concerned about the alien threat. Remember, he was an adoptee, and I think Admiral Byrd might have disclosed a lot about that threat in that meeting. Now, Admiral Forrestal was of the opinion that the whole world should know about this alien presence, and it shouldn't just be kept for a few people in high positions. So he started disclosing things to people. Now, he was told by President Truman to stop that.
You need
keep it to himself, but he refused, and he started going to different congressmen and having individual meetings with them where he would tell them what he knew. Well, you just don't do that. So he was relieved of duty, and subsequently he was gaslighted by the cabal, and finally suicided at the Naval Hospital.
Let's just take a moment here and explain what gaslighting is, because we may have some members of our listening audience who don't know. Well, gaslighting, which I think comes from the title of an old movie in which this was done, you're made to believe yourself that you're crazy because, for whatever reason...
Yeah, what they do is they'll set things up, like let's say you're observing something and someone will say, look at that beautiful yellow bird over there. And you know you're seeing a red bird. And you say, no, it's red. And the person will say, no, it's yellow. And he'll pull over another friend and say, what color is that bird? And of course the friend will agree with that. He'll say, it's yellow. So you're starting to doubt your perceptions. And incident after incident, to try to make you feel like there's something wrong with what you're seeing. And so that's what they were trying. They were trying to make Forrestal think that he was crazy. He was having a nervous breakdown. He was working too hard. He was totally discredited. So that's what gaslighting is. And you know what? You know who else was gaslighted on this same subject during the same period of time? You! Yeah, we've all been gaslighted on the subject of UFOs and aliens. There were specific programs put in place that we'll go over that were designed to make you doubt your perceptions, doubt what you were seeing, discredit anybody that had any notion that there might be any truth to the alien presence. Actually, many people today remain gaslighted. They have a strong opinion that was given to them, and they stick with that opinion. And no matter what proof you show, they can't go. So we've all been gaslighted. It's been a systematic thing, and how badly we've been gaslighted and how much effort they put into gaslighting us will become increasingly clear as we get further and further into this program. Well, you know, being gaslighted doesn't just make you feel like you're crazy or doubt your perception. It allows you, it sets you up in a position where you can be easily misled and deceived.
Here's a really good quote that sums up the danger in allowing yourself to be gaslighted. It comes from Transparency, War of the Worlds, Orson Welles, and the Invasion from Mars. Quote, "We live in a time in which the ability to create deceptive simulations, especially for television, has become essential to the exercise of power. And the inability to see through these deceptions has become a form of powerlessness. Those who let themselves be taken in by the multiple deceptions of politics, news, advertising, and public relations are doomed, like the more gullible members of the radio audience in 1938, with the world's deception, to play a role in other people's dramas while mistakenly believing that they are reacting to something genuine." Unquote.
Especially with television viewing. Television is totally controlled by the cabal, and it'll create scenarios and situations for you to believe in. For example, false flags like Sandy Hook, Boston bombing, things that are almost created out of whole cloth. So I think that we owe it to ourselves and the people around us to be informed, not allow ourselves to be deceived or gaslighted or participate in the gaslighting of other people. To that end, we're going to devote the rest of this broadcast to a publication by William Cooper called The Secret Government: The Origin, Identity, and Purpose of MJ